date, 8/18 was a very auspicious date. Friday, and as someone who's very number superstitious, I was like, yo, that is the best day.
Yeah,
but then when I looked on my period calendar,
oh no,
I was like, I can't have that day.
All right, ladies, we are 2 weeks out from Helen's beautiful wedding. I feel like it was just yesterday. Then that's why we're wearing these robes, because this is what we were wearing the day of while we're getting ready. But yeah,
so feels so extra.
But I mean, literally your shoes and your feathered thing matches. But we're trying to bring it back because, so Janet and myself were two of the bridesmaids. There's also Sandra, Sammy, Christine, and Annie. But yes, it's been 2 weeks, so we had time to rest and process. For today's episode, we want to reflect and kind of just relive Helen's wedding.
Yes, so we are going to go through all of the juicy details. We want to know what things Helen thinks went well, what things Mel and I feel like went really well. Maybe what things Helen would do differently. She's going to give us some helpful tips. So this is also great for anyone who's like planning a wedding for the remainder of 2023 or 2024. And we'll also share some personal stories, because I feel like this was a very meaningful wedding for all of us in a very unique way, because we've been friends for so long. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's just crazy to like think about the fact that it's like in the past, like all of the work and anticipation leading up to this wedding. It's just crazy that it's like now behind us. And I just wanted to quickly say thank you to you ladies for being a part of it. I know Mel mentioned like you were both bridesmaids, but there was so much more than that. Like we had planned a surprise dance that Mel and Janet were a part of, and that's not even out on social media to the public yet, but like we did a thing. We did a thing.
Is it going to be released?
I mean, yeah, I'm pretty proud of it.
I'm really proud of that. I watched the clip like 10,000 times.
Yeah, Philip said I watched it at least 100 times in the bathroom on the toilet. So definitely proud of that. But like not only that, like you two had speeches as well. So when I think back on it, it's like without you two, I don't know how I would have been able to do any of this. So very thankful for you both. And honestly, it was, because I've had time to really think about this too, it was for sure like the best weekend of my life. So it's just it
Strong
for sure
statement.
was, yes.
That
And I
is
thought
amazing.
about it too, because I'm like, everyone always says it, but let me feel it out. Is it really? And it was.
Aww.
All right, well, I'm going to just ask you questions that I'm curious about.
Okay,
That's
I gotta
okay.
make sure I'm not flashing anyone.
Let me check.
Robes are always so weird. You have
They
to like wear
are.
something on the inside. What are you wearing on the inside?
I'm wearing a tank top.
I'm wearing biker shorts.
Oh, nice.
You're very prepared. You said, please wear a slip, because you
Yeah.
said boobs will be hanging out. Da, da, da. Like, you don't want that situation.
I feel like usually people are just in their bras, and then robes like always come apart.
Yeah, and then people take photos during that and videos, and then to Helen's point, it's like you don't want to be randomly flashing someone
Exactly.
on
So you
accident.
knew to tell us. But okay, first question.
Okay.
I think a lot of people would be curious to hear, like, why did you choose this year? Because they're like, oh, you already got legally married, and like you had your Chinese ceremony like 2 years ago, and also like I think you guys decided to get married pretty quickly, and then you planned it really quickly. So what about this year that made you go, I'm having a wedding?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just a little bit of background, because I don't think actually people know, because like I've seen comments where people said, aren't you already married? Like, why are you getting married again? And it's true. I think visually we have portrayed that we have been married, or we are married. We've been officially married since like 2021, which was 2 years ago. But just a quick background on that. A lot of that is because, we wanted to start a family. Like Philip and I were in a place where we were like, why are we even waiting for this pandemic, this like virus to be over, and who knows when it's going to be over. So we always knew we wanted to start a family. And back in 2021, we had our Joshua Tree wedding, Microsoft Teams, immediate family on the video.
Because
to
that
watch.
was the like with the courts, right? That
With
was
the with the city call center, very romantic, but it was a very intimate, nice setting for the two of us, like dancing under stars for our first dance, and just being in a hammock and like looking at the stars and dreaming up our future. So it was a very nice, intimate moment. I would not change that at all.
I think that's how I want my wedding, actually. I like that.
Yeah, it was very, very nice. And then we had our Chinese tea ceremony in June of 2021, which is, I think, what my mom actually, or parents considered to be the actual wedding, because that's when we paid respect to our elders, and also I think she had written down somewhere like, oh, you got the approval of your ancestors and, you know, things like that. So that was another wedding date, so many wedding dates. But then Philip and I are the type of people that, if you know us, you know, we love a good party. We love to celebrate. We love any reason to celebrate with our friends and family. We are also the type of people that I think value experiences over materialistic goods. And we always knew that we wanted to have a big wedding celebration. This is a little woo-woo, but when I think about what is the meaning of life or what makes life worthwhile, it really, for me, is being in these moments of celebration with friends and family and really feeling that like pure love to the point where you almost feel weightless and like nothing else matters. So knowing that a wedding is sort of this like once in a lifetime experience, and when else are you going to be able to have people fly in from other states to come in and join you in a celebration? I think the next time is probably going to be like when I'm 50 or maybe even like 90, you know, and that's like way too long to wait. So this we knew was a thing that we wanted to do, to just have all of our friends and family together for, yes, what turned out to be the best weekend of our lives. But that's sort of the background. And this year was mostly because, I don't know, we had waited long enough.
Yeah.
Like we had a baby at the end of 2021. And then 2022 happened where we were just trying to figure out how to parent, still trying to figure out how to parent. But then we were like, okay. And at the end of 2022, we started looking for a location again. And we didn't lock it in until March of 2022. And that gave us 5 months until the wedding day.
You mean 2023, right?
2023.
Yeah.
2022, we were trying to survive as parents.
Wait, I know you mentioned this in the past, but like I feel like your family's really traditional. Like the date you selected for this year in August, was it because that was like a lucky day, or is it like
an auspicious date?
My mom gave me I think it was like 12 dates
Oh.
of the whole year. And she's like, you have to get married on one of these dates. I was like, Mom, this is so unrealistic. Like, who knows if the venue's available? Like, if people are available, am I available? But she gave me these 12 dates, and it was not one of the dates on there. But it was also not one of the dates on the no list. There's a yes list and a no list. And then everything in between, she's like, okay, if you want to have it on this date, sure, fine. But I'll share later on why I specifically didn't choose one of her dates, even though I kind of wanted to. But yeah, it's very complicated with very traditional, superstitious Asian parents. So before we dive into more of my perspective of the wedding, because I could go on and on, I feel like I want to hear from you two. What were like your favorite moments from the wedding? The most memorable? What was your takeaway?
Mine, like very, very quickly, I already know is it was the father-daughter dance and the mother-son dance, hands down. Well, first of all, for like all of this wedding, I was in tears every like 30 minutes for different reasons. I mean, I obviously like I know Helen.
Wedding, yes.
It was, yeah, and I think that was what was really special when you're talking about having to host something for your friends. I was realizing if you didn't do this, Mel and I would have never had an opportunity to celebrate with you all, right? And I think a lot of like Asian or Asian American like individuals, like friends that I know, they do having multiple ceremonies because there's like one for the parents, one for the thing. So yeah, realizing it's like, oh, if you guys decided to just not do anything, like we would not have been able to be a part of any of it. The reason why the father-daughter and the mother-son dance was so, I think, moving for me is, one, I know both of you individually pretty well and for quite some time, or like pretty well or long time. And I also know your parents. I've met them, you know, we've spent time with them in your homes. We've seen, you know, hung out with them with your baby. And so that already is very meaningful. But I think beyond that, like there is like something about knowing that your parent is the first place you learn how to love. And the older that I'm getting, the more that I think about these things, right? And the song choice that you had for your dance, what was it called? It was...
So I was deciding between a banger of Celine Dion's Because You Loved Me or Camila Cabello's First Man.
And she went with the latter. And oh my God, I feel like there were multiple people that I just remember hearing throughout the wedding or like after that happened. And they're like, what song was it that she chose? That was like, because the lyrics are all about her expressing to her father, like, hey, Dad, I found a good man to take care of me and to kind of like not take your place, but your father is the first man in your life. And it just lyrically expressed all of the things that I think for a father and for the daughter that are going through your mind emotionally and mentally when you think about the significance of marriage beyond just the celebration, right? So I was just like already all over the place. And then for Phil's, he chose Louis Armstrong's like What a Wonderful World with his mom. And the moment that he turned around and I could see his face like do the scrunched up thing and he's like saying words into his mom's ears, and I was just like, oh my God, I lost it. And I think that song is just it's a classic. But I think also for Asian American men, like I know for everyone in that as an attendee, and my boyfriend, the guy sitting next to me, I looked over and he's like, and I could see him like choke up, and he's like, something in the, who's cutting onions kind of thing.
Yeah.
And multiple like of our friends afterwards said that is a really moving moment. So I think just for multiple reasons that for me was like the top.
Just like a little bit, just from my perspective of that first dance, like it's kind of wild because I can't remember. Okay, the last time I danced with my dad was probably when I was 6 years old for one of his like company holiday parties where I remember just like standing on his like toes and like dancing with him.
I have memories of that with my dad.
And then other than that, he is the kind of like the poster Asian patriarchal male figure like type of person who I think throughout my whole life I've only seen him cry like twice my whole entire life, right? Even when his like dad passed, like no tears, very stoic of a man. And when first off, like getting to dance with your dad, you're like, oh, this is a long hug. Like right, when you think about it, like it's fucking awkward, right? And so I kept telling him, hey, we need to practice because I was like, I need a hug. I need to feel this with you
right. Before doing it in front of all the people.
Everyone. And then I remember when the MC was like, get up to dance with your dad. I was like, oh shit, we didn't practice. I don't know if you see my face, but if you see my expression, that's why. But when I got up there, it felt very natural and comfortable. It's kind of like, how do you dance?
With your
do you
dad.
Like stay arm's length distance or do you get close? And we ended up, my arm on his shoulder to the point where I could put my head on his shoulder if I wanted to. So we were pretty close. And once I got over the fact that like this could be awkward, I was like, okay, let's just feel the moment. And then the song was chosen specifically because every time I listened to it, I was tearing up. So I was like, should I choose a song that everyone knows and will feel emotional to, or do they have to listen to the lyrics? And I was like, well, I want to listen to the lyrics when I dance with my dad. So I chose the one that was more meaningful. And then the whole time, like I said thank you to him. I think that is a very good moment, like for anyone out there who wants or is planning to do a dance with their mom or their dad, to just say thank you during that moment. And then after I said that, I felt the tears coming because even the song lyrics were just like, you were the first man who ever loved me. And of all the men that have been in my life, if you think about like all the boyfriends and the people who have come in and out, it's like, he's loved me since I was a baby. And to be able to dance up there with him, I was just like, this is so wild. So I started tearing up and I said in Toysini to him, I was like, Nemo Hoka, okay, Bubby. I was like, don't cry, Dad. And then he did this thing where, uncomfortable laughter and you can just see the tears. He's like, no, you cry, I cry, I was like, don't do it. And then I just saw his eyes like well up and I broke down. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is a moment. This is a moment. So that was a very, very real and meaningful moment for me as well. And I also thought about how I felt very lucky because I know not a lot of people are able to dance with their dads at their wedding. And I just felt very grateful, in the moment. So that was a very special one for me. Yeah. Woo, I'm like getting like emotional.
I feel
about it.
I'm reliving it.
Yeah.
I do want to add a little bit to this too, because I think there's so many layers to why this moment was so significant. But I remember during Phil's dance with his mom. The song actually is one of his mom's favorite songs that she told me over dinner. I was like, oh, that's so nice they chose it. But I think just watching him dance with his mom made me think of like, oh man, this is gonna be you someday with your son. And I think for me, it's like, oh man. So watching you react was like, that was another moment for me. Because I also was next to our friend Amy, who just had her baby boy, and she's like, she literally whispered to me, she said, it hits different now when you're a mom, when you're a mom to a son. And I was just like, oh yeah. And so it just added so much emotion to the already mixing pot of things. Yeah. So I just wanted to share that bit.
Yeah, what was your favorite moment?
I'm going to change the tone a bit. I have to talk about it. I mean, my favorite moment would probably be the dance we did. That surprise.
Oh
Phil.
yes.
I will
Give background.
Okay.
Of this dance.
So Helen was like, "Should we do a dance, like for a surprise dance for the wedding?" And we're like, "Yeah." And so what she decided to do is she took Phil's OG moment on YouTube is that he is known for his lip syncing videos. And so what we did is we took his, is it Senorita? Mm-hmm. We cut Senorita.
Yes.
Yeah, we took Senorita. We took his last video at Wongfu at UCSD, Stay by Neo, and then we ended it with his first dance with his good friends Tim and Alan, who were also part of the wedding party, who also did a dance in church.
It was a church dance, yes.
It was in sync.
Yeah.
So like
From like when he was maybe in
middle school.
Oh, he was in middle school.
Or maybe
I think it might have been high school.
high school.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we just cut this video, and Helen's like, okay, let's recreate this moment for him. And
It was
surprise
also
him.
to celebrate because they just celebrated their 20 years since releasing a video out on YouTube. So I was like thinking like, oh, that this would be a good like nod to this beautiful moment in his life. Yeah.
Yes. So she did that, and then she asked some of us on the wedding party, who was like, do you want to do it? We're like, let's do it. And so it was me, Helen, Janet. So 3 of us here, and then our friends Tim, Taylor, and Alan, which from my perspective, I thought was an excellent selection because all of them have background in dancing.
Also, Tim and Alan were in most of the videos from like 20 years back,
ago,
which
yeah.
is
Which
wild.
is insane, right?
Yes. And for them to be at the wedding party, recreating the dance.
Could you imagine though getting that call from Helen? You're like, hey, remember that thing that you did like 20 years ago? You want to do it again?
So I get to do it again.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
How crazy is it to? But it's like that's like such a long time ago, and your body is like, you're like, okay, let's see if we can get
Yeah,
this.
especially for our friend Alan, who had to do a flare.
Yeah, do
But
a b-boy
20 years
move.
later.
But I love it because I think that was a moment Phil was really excited about. But anyways, like, so that happened, and then we asked my roommate, who's a choreographer dancer, to like help us recreate the dance. And so we had 3 practices, 2 hours each. And we're like, can we nail this? Like, I don't know. But I think that, like, to be honest, the reason why I select this moment is because it felt like we're kind of like going back to this performer side of ourselves that we all had in the past. And also that, but like, I think all of us have a very perfectionism mentality when it comes to performance. We're like, we need to nail it. So, and then 3, I was like, I can't wait for Phil to see this. Like, I can't wait for everyone to like,
He was so surprised.
yeah. So we're like, oh, can we hide the surprise? And so I remember the moment where we're like, we're already changed in our outfits and we're literally crouching beneath their coffee station. Hear the DJ going, can Phil Wang please come to the dance floor? We have a special surprise for you. And then he's like sat down in this chair and he's like, what's going on? Like, whatever.
He was so worried that I was going to do a sexy dance.
He's like, she better know better not to do this. Like
He's like, is this gonna be a cringe moment coming?
But luckily it wasn't, because then we also had like a projector screen we had the video playing in the background. And when we came out, we literally like came out running and then like posed by the side of the dance floor. I'm like, then the music hit and then Janet started. And I just hear throughout the dance, I think I felt really like so happy because everyone killed it. And then you hear Phil going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And he's like, when did you practice? Just the whole reaction was the whole dance. And you hear everyone be like, oh, I hear Chris King go, oh shit. Like I hear that in the recording. So I just feel like it was such a good reaction. And then I think once we had to we hit our ending pose is like we're throwing petals in the air. I remember in my head, I was like, we killed the dance. We nailed it.
Yeah.
And then I was like just so happy because I just feel like it was a fun performance. We did such a good job. People seemed to enjoy it. And then for me, I was like, now I can drink a party kind of vibe. So for me, that was a fun moment because I think selfishly, to be honest, it just reminded me back in like high school show choir days, like performing with a group of people, like working really hard towards something to finally like just put it out there.
Yeah.
That was the feeling I got. And it was just
I'm just glad you both were down for that. Like when I brought it up, I was like, oh, no one's gonna want to do this. And you're like, okay. And then the first practice, we're like, this is a lot. Like it was only 3 minutes in length, but like it felt like a lot.
I mean, it was
it was a lot. Yeah, and we crammed a lot into our practices, but I'm glad it turned out the way it did. It was really, really, really fun.
I will have to say, like when you did bring it up and we had the first practice, I was like, oh, this is an ambitious pursuit. And as someone who I guess I've never danced with like Tim and Alan, but I've seen what it is to put on kind of a production. I was like, are we going to be able to pull this off in the way that you'll be happy with it? And I think by the 3rd practice, I was like, okay, this'll. But I was like, how did we do this?
I feel like after 3rd practice, we got like emotional. Like Alan reached out, he was just like, thank you so much for doing this because it's such a full circle moment to be back, doing this with like my best friends, and it's just
I do think that there is
very
something
cool.
about like Mel, your callback to show choir, and I think for Alan, Tim, Phil, and myself, we were all on Ascension, and there is something about putting in the sweat and the time together, and then being able to perform or it's actually more in the preparation than in the performance really that you feel bonded. So that that was, I think, a moment for them to be like, oh, thanks for kind of giving me that throwback again.
I actually remember because during the reason why I remember the last practice were like, I remember all the reactions because we were recording everything just so we could practice. And then afterwards, everyone sat back home and watched the playback of our practice. We're like, I think we're doing it, you guys. Like, I think we're doing it. I think we actually look decent. And then everyone got excited. Like, we cannot wait to like just nail it now at the real thing. But that was like, and then I think during practice we were hyping each other. We're like, oh shit, you guys nailed it. That was so good. And like,
that is also a form of teamwork, I think, because it was leading up to the wedding. And when you're a part of the wedding party, it does become like you were working as a team to help, go through this amazing weekend. So that was another, I think, extra component that helped people feel like bonded more.
Yeah. That was my moment. One of my moments.
I will say the other thing, so talking about the wedding party, I think in this particular setting, so once again, not only is the wedding particularly meaningful because the bride and groom are people that I'm very close with, but that also means that the bridal party and the groomsmen, which are people in their lives, are also people that I know quite well. And it was very, like, when I was standing up there behind Helen during the ceremony, and I'm looking, and I know all the women behind me, and I'm looking at the men, the groomsmen, and I was like, whoa, this is so weird that, like, for, like, 80% of the people up here, I've known for, like, 2 decades. And, like,
cool.
in what other setting are you going to be able to feel that type of closeness to, all the people in the party in that way?
I agree.
But so it was not only, I think, an emotional like bonding, but also for our group, like you have to, I think within the wedding party, like you got to choose wisely and how, like, what, depending on how you want the party to be involved. And I feel like our group was a solid mixture of like people that could be down to help plan, people that were on the day of, even if they couldn't help plan, were down to do what it takes, whatever, and just like help out. And so I just felt like as a team to get things done together, much like we do with ABG, but then also as friends, like we had that chemistry.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, everyone was so on top of it and organized. I was just like, wow. Surrounded, they'd say, what is it? Like, you are the average of the 5 people closest to you. And I think in the past, like, that was not a statement that I was like, oh, am I proud of this statement? But like on the wedding day, I was like, damn, I'm very proud of the people that we've surrounded ourselves with. And I think Philip has done a really good job of keeping close to like everyone and bringing together people from all walks of life, joining people from like work to friends to like childhood friends. Like he's been able to keep that going, and I feel like that's such a rare quality. But to see it on the wedding day and also just like in his bachelor party, I'm like, oh wow, he like really does this intentionally to, make sure everyone is joined as like a unit instead of like as separate groups.
Yeah, I agree. All right, my last thing I want to add, my favorite moment. It just makes me like so happy. It's like so like. So obviously I'm obsessed with Helen's baby, and one of the cutest moments. There's 2 moments that involve him. So he was a ring bearer and he was walking down the aisle, but I don't know what happened before the ceremony. But his last button was unbuttoned, so his belly was sticking out. It was the cutest thing because he's just like walking, like kind of like looking around, and you just see his like belly popping out.
He loves his belly. He always rubs his belly. He searches for
so
people's
cute.
belly buttons too.
Like
belly.
Yeah, he's so cute. And then also I thought it was really precious that he's obviously in the first row, and then Helen and Phil are giving their vows, and all of a sudden you hear mama, papa, mama, and just hear his voice, and I'm just like but yeah, I just love seeing him throughout the whole wedding day. He was just so cute, interacting with everyone. Like I think also when he was when Phil was having this really emotional dance with his mom, all of a sudden I hear behind me, I hear the baby. He's like playing with the chair with the Wong Fu girls. He's like, jump, jump, jump.
He was having his own dance.
Yeah.
He's going off on the side.
He's having a good time. So just seeing him like being there, it was just so significant. And he was a good moment to like kind of like smile throughout the ceremony. So I love that moment.
Oh, thank you. I actually recorded an episode on Spill the Baby Tea. Not sure if it's already out. I think it should be already out by the time this episode is out, but talked about how we planned for a wedding with a baby and also how we incorporated him into the wedding. That was a very intentional thing to try and make sure that he was involved as much as possible. He loved it so much. He loves people.
Yeah. It was really, really special to have him there.
Hello everyone, Helen here, and this one is for all the parents out there who have babies that are still in their diapers. If you're a parent, I will be shocked if you haven't experienced a nasty, outrageously unnecessary blowout just yet. We used to experience them, and they were never a good time. But now, with the new and improved Pampers Swaddlers diaper with blowout barrier innovation, Swaddlers prevents up to 100% of leaks, even blowouts. This diaper has a blowout barrier at the back waist to prevent those messy leaks and blowouts, plus dual leak guard barriers at the legs to help protect leaks where they happen most often. Pampers Swaddlers are dermatologist approved by the Skin Health Alliance, hypoallergenic, and free of parabens and latex. Yes, we only want the best for our babies. They're available in sizes newborn to size 8 and now feature designs with new animal characters, Shiloh the elephant and Freddie the duck. How cute! For trusted protection, trust Pampers, the #1 pediatrician recommended brand.
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into our episodes now in video format. For many years, you all listened to us weekly, and as much as we love creating audio content, how much better is it now that you can also see us? From photos of new merch, sharing snippets of our lives with you through social media, to now inviting you all into our weekly episodes on video, visuals play a big role in allowing us to connect with you all. If you are also someone who is drawn to visual content and are finding that your phone is no longer cutting it for getting the types of photos and videos that you want, check out the Nikon Z8 mirrorless camera, a new, smaller, powerful system with unrivaled video capabilities. It's a more efficient and compact setup for video with an internal 8K 60p, 4K 120p video. And with an ultra high resolution of 45.7 MP, it takes incredibly sharp stills. The autofocus is super accurate, even in low light, and you can capture stunning colors straight out of the camera. To learn more, check out nikonusa.com/podcastz8. So now that we've shared our favorite moments, Helen, I'm curious for you, as the bride, what were the 5 best decisions that you feel like you made for that day?
Ooh, okay.
Mentally taking notes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so what I will share, I feel like it's not going to be what you see on TikTok or Reels, because I literally got fed all of the top 5 best decisions I've made. I feel like you did too. You got a lot of wedding content.
Before the wedding,
Their explore pages were.
I love wedding stuff.
Yes. So this might not be your typical like, oh, make sure you do coordinate your first dance or have Polaroids on your table or something. So, okay, this is going to be from my perspective. But the very first one I would say is making sure to prepare for self-care. You don't think about, I don't think a lot of people, well, I think people think about this, but maybe not until like a few months before the wedding. But for me, I started preparing like 5 months before the wedding. And as I was thinking about this yesterday, this question, I realized that this is a whole episode in itself. So I'm going to record a separate episode for all of the self-care that I did on a Spill the Baby Tea episode that will be coming out September 19th. I know it's a little far, but
Janet's birthday.
It's my birthday.
it's going to be on Jana's birthday. How to self-care for yourself before a wedding, which I think is very appropriate for like as a mom too. I just realized never in my life had I tried to physically take care of myself as much as I did for this wedding. And I was on a mission to be the hottest and most confident version of myself, which is funny because we should be feeling that way all the time. But I definitely stopped doing that after the wedding. But definitely want to share with everyone like what I did to prep for the wedding. So we'll share that later, but that was the number one best decision, I think, just making sure that you're doing the self-care and preparing for it beforehand so that you feel the best that you can on your wedding day. Secondly, we hired a wedding planner, and I think that was a really good decision for us. We hired a full-time wedding planner, and I've definitely had friends, even my sister had like a day of coordinator, 30-day coordinator. I think that all definitely works out. But I think for us, given the size of our party, we had 200 people, and when we booked the location, we had 5 months remaining before the wedding. So given the timeline, given that we have a child, we literally didn't have time to wedding plan. I think it was very necessary that we did hire a wedding planner. Michelle from Somni Events, if you are in SoCal, highly recommend her. We all love her so much.
She is on it.
She's detail-oriented, sweet but firm, and she will just get things done. And I think some of the main benefits of a wedding planner was just like we had 10 vendors, but I barely communicated with any of them. So just imagine like all of them trying to get all these details from you. She was basically like the liaison for a lot of that. So that is my number 2 best decision. Thirdly, In terms of the ceremony, this is very specific. In terms of the ceremony placement, so usually where you as, say, the bride are standing, on your side is usually where your family is going to sit, right? The bride side and the groom side. I decided that I wanted my family to be on the opposite side of me because I wanted to be able to see them like eye to eye. I love Philip's parents, but I wanted to see my mom. I wanted to see my dad. I wanted to see my grandma. I put my baby on that side. I was like, I want to see my baby. And I think that was I'm very happy I made that very non-traditional decision. And just to see my grandma, she was so like locked in on me and smiling the whole time. I would have missed that if, she was staring at the back of my head. Definitely a very good decision there. Okay, fourth best decision, having a Friday wedding, which I don't think it's very not the first choice for a lot of people, but when we originally had planned our wedding, that wedding location, the difference between having a weekday wedding versus a weekend was about $25K. Just for a different day. Yeah. That's why we were like, yo, Wednesday wedding it is, And we were like, okay, let's do Friday. So from the get-go, we were about to have a Friday wedding. But I think in hindsight, even if the price was the same or different, it depends on also the convenience for your wedding guests too, right? You got to make sure that everyone is kind of okay with, giving them the heads up, making sure they can take that day off to have that be your wedding day. But in hindsight, I would probably choose Friday, even if the price was the same. And the reason for that is because you allow your guests a day to rest, which is Sunday, before getting back to work. And I think a lot of people actually appreciated that one day to rest before going back to work. The way that we did things was Thursday we had a rehearsal and rehearsal dinner. Friday was the wedding. And then Saturday, which again I think was another to tag on to like best decisions, we had a Saturday morning after brunch, which at first people were like, oh, don't do it. No one's going to show up. Like, it's going to be a waste of money. But so many people showed up, and it was kind of like a mini celebration after the wedding. And it was also the time that Philip and we were able to go around and actually talk to people. Because during the wedding, you were just shuffled from like one place to the other, and you literally can't talk to, like, it's very hard to have a long conversation with people. But the fact that we were able to go from table to table was very meaningful for us. Like, we wanted to talk to people who flew in from different states and whatnot. So highly recommend that as well. Either that or like a welcome drinks if that's, within budget. And then that night, Saturday night, we had another celebration. We had a clubbing event in LA, downtown LA at the Continental Club, and loved that decision also because I think a lot of people coming from out of town, they wanted to see what LA is about, but the wedding was in Temecula, so it was a 2-hour drive away. So I think providing that ability for them to like party in LA was a good decision, and everyone did continue partying. That was also a concern that people would be too tired, but not these two.
I didn't drink enough at the wedding, apparently.
Yeah. Lastly, and again, something that people probably don't talk about, best decision was tracking my period ahead of time to make sure that my wedding didn't fall on my period day, that it didn't coincide. And obviously this is if you have a pretty consistent cycle, because you have to plan this out like a year in advance, right? Because you have to book the location, you have to book the date, so you got to think far in advance. And mine thankfully is pretty much like on time. So when you ask like, oh, what about the auspicious date, 8/18 was a very auspicious date. Friday. And as someone who's very number superstitious, I was like, yo, that is the best day.
Yeah,
but then when I looked on my period calendar,
oh no,
I was like, I can't have that day. I also don't know if I don't think the venue was available for that day either. So I was like, let's move it a month or a week ahead, which is why we had 8/11. It did come 8/19, and I was in like bloat nation 8/18. So that is something that I would recommend to brides out there. If you're not tracking your period and you plan to have a wedding, start tracking your period.
That's so smart.
So that was the last like best decision that I think was made. Also, our lighting just changed. I don't know if anyone noticed, but it did.
It's cycle synced.
It's cycle synced,
sort of.
Well, I'm curious. So I feel like when I'm planning the wedding, there's so many details that go on in my head, but obviously I'm not attending the wedding. I don't really see it and can really like appreciate the things that were thought up. As attendees of the wedding, what were some things that you feel like you appreciated, and perhaps these could be like tips for people out there that, if you're planning your wedding, maybe these are the things to focus on?
Yeah, I think for me, one of the top things was you had couches and very comfortable seating during I think it was during cocktail hour and also after dinner. And why I think that was so important is because you had a variety of family there. And so we had people that were like kids and babies to adults, young adults, middle-aged adults, and then also like grandparents. So I noticed that during the after dinner, a lot of the elders used up the chairs and the sofas and the couches. And so I thought that was like a very thoughtful thing to provide, and it also added to the vibe really nicely because they were like vintage chairs, out on the lawn. So that to me stood out a lot. Thinking about your guests and like what's going to be comfortable for them. The second thing, a lot of weddings, like there's like dancing afterwards, right? And this is the first wedding I've been to where you had baskets of flip-flops for people. So for the women who were in heels, by the end of the night, if you wanted to keep dancing, you could change out your shoes and comfortably dance, which we did. Which is actually the third thing that I really liked was the after party kind of vibe that we had. After we had like the main dinner area and there was like dancing at a certain hour, we moved inside and it felt kind of like our own private club. Very intimate. Helen had provided these like little glow stick type things, and the DJ just like really lasered in on a set that was like all of the songs from our like the peak moments of our like youth.
Millennial music.
Millennial music.
Love
it. And I felt like the group, it was like maybe like 50 people deep where we were just in our own little like pit that we created. So those were some like key moments and key things that really stood out to me as someone who was attending the wedding.
Ooh, these are really good ones. Mine, this is like, it's funny because I literally was on the phone with my mom and she was like, how was the wedding? So I was like recounting your wedding again to my mom. I love, so when you enter the cocktail hour, you hear this beautiful music. It's this dude hooked up with his guitar, like playing just great acoustic music, walking around. And it created such a vibe that I was like, what a great, just like a so creative way of like adding another element to the cocktail hour. Okay, the second, I appreciated your like I don't want to say it's like goodie bags, but like no, in the bathroom you had like little things.
Oh, the bathroom like amenities.
Amenities.
Like baskets. You created a basket for each bathroom.
The reason why I appreciate this is because at weddings I sweat a lot, and you had deodorant, and I was like, yes. So there's deodorant ready for
spray deodorant.
Spray.
Just in case.
Yes,
I thought about that.
Because I've gone to weddings before, I'm like, can I borrow deodorant? I had to borrow deodorant, so that was really helpful. And like there was like floss, there's like so many different things there. I was like,
there was eyelash glue.
Oh,
right.
I think you asked, I was like, what should I have? You're like, these are good items.
I was standing at a Target and I was like, what would I need? Eyelash glue was number one.
Yeah. That was really.
So you're gonna be crying, ceremony.
Exactly.
Stuff,
so I really appreciate like those little like thoughtful things. Yeah. Hello everyone. Is your social media explore page full of nutrition tips, healthy eats for summer, and people sharing their latest workout craze? Even though this is inspiring, when was the last time any of us have gone to a checkup with the doctor? I hear crickets. If you had to think about it, it's time to head to ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app where you can find amazing doctors and book appointments online. We're talking about booking appointments with thousands of top-rated patient-reviewed doctors and specialists. You can filter specifically for ones who take your insurance, are located near you, and treat almost any condition you're searching for. The average wait time to see a doctor booked on ZocDoc is between just 24 to 48 hours. That's it. Luckily, I found a doctor, but if I've needed this product, I would totally use this. Go to ZocDoc.com/ABG and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/ABG. ZocDoc.com/ABG. Obviously, the wedding looked perfect, but as the bride who's been planning it, I want to know, like, what didn't go as planned?
Oh, okay. Okay. Let's get into it. One thing, and these are like minor things that didn't go. Like, I think regardless of any wedding, like something's always going to go to the wayside, and it's like, it's okay, right? Like, as much as you could be detail oriented, as much as your planner's on top of it, bridal party's on top of it, things aren't going to go perfectly. One small one is that I had a very cute ring bearer pillow for my baby, and we had practiced him walking with it and all of that, but it didn't show up at the ceremony. So that was okay.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I know. These are things that people won't notice.
Yeah.
But I will. But it's okay. Because it was still a very cute moment with his belly hanging out. Like, that should have been, that was another missed thing, I guess.
Yeah,
His button.
Unplanned.
That was one. Secondly, with the ceremony. So I thought that I would have time the morning of the wedding to transcribe my vows into my vow book. I did not. For some reason, between 7 a.m. and 1 p.m., which is the time we were allocated to get ready, I did not have time to write down my vows, which is just insane. That just speaks to the volume of how much goes on the morning of the wedding. So I last minute asked my wedding planner, hey, would you mind having one of your assistants print this out for me and then just put it in my vow book so that I could have it there. And we give our vow books to the officiant. So he is the one that hands it to you. And it wasn't until we had this like car that kind of drove me up to the ceremony. I was in there with my dad and we were like getting ready. We're like so excited. And then one of the assistants comes up and says, your vows are printed, but it's not in the book. And I was like, what do you mean it's not in the book?
You're literally about to walk down.
We're literally about to walk down. She's like, when you get up there, you're going to be handed a piece of paper. And I was like, what?
Oh, shoot.
And I was freaking out. And the whole time I just stared at my flowers. I'm like, grateful, grateful, grateful. Be grateful. These flowers are so beautiful. This day is perfect. It's fine. It's fine. And really, like, once I got up there, didn't think about it at all. But basically, I had this like 8.5 by 11 like folded paper in my cute little vow book, which yes, no one's going to notice. But I did. But that's completely okay as well.
Actually, we didn't even see it.
Oh, yeah, because you guys were behind me. Yes.
Oh, that would have actually made me really nervous, too. Yeah. I feel like as I'm pulling up to go out.
I was like, that made me laugh.
Like, come on. But you do have to just, like, let go of so much on your wedding day. Another one was our seating chart. I don't know if people notice. I don't think people notice. So usually with your seating chart, you can go, like, crazy fancy. We decided to go very simple, just, like, 2 poster boards with our seating plan, and we had 2 of them because we had 200 people, 100 on each was how much we could fit. And usually the titling of it will be like seating chart or wedding party or like find your seat or our favorite people. But I was like, oh, let's like make this a little cute. Philip is a huge fan of Taylor Swift, so I was like, okay, let's add this little Easter egg, a lyric from one of her songs. From Lover, which we were thinking like, oh, should that be our first dance song? Because we love the song. I was like, no, let's just put it somewhere Easter eggy into our wedding. And the line was going to be, and at every table, I'll save you a seat. Okay. Sure. I was like, oh, people are going to get this. I'm going to see stories of this. Like, people are going to be like, oh, shoot, I understand this. No one storied it. I did see in like one story, just like someone like went to the like scanned it and then went to the bar. And I was like, oh, what does that say? It said, I'll save you a seat. I'll save you a seat. So I was like, how the F did we not catch that? Because it was sitting in our living room forever. We framed it, but in our delirium, I guess, of like pre-wedding stuff, we just did not notice at all. And I'm sure people looked at that and were just like, okay, save me a seat, you know? No. Nothing significant at all to it. But that's the one thing that was missed.
I'm just laughing because remember, I think you brought this up to us and I was like, Phil was saying like, imagine if it says at every table, at every table. I thought that'd be hella funny.
And at every table, and at every
I'd be like,
table.
what? But it makes sense. I'll save you a seat.
Yeah. So I guess it wasn't that bad, but that's one thing. Another thing that didn't really go as planned, which was thankfully it didn't go as not planned, was the weather. The weather was historically in that area has been over 90s, very hot. And so I had ordered 110 personal handheld fans for people because I was thinking like, if you attend the wedding, you probably wish you had a fan. So wanted to equip people with that in case it was extra hot. And when we had taken out these fans, it only lasted for 30 minutes. I was like, we had to charge all of these. So we charged all of the fans for half an hour each, brought them to the wedding, and the day was perfect. Did not need a fan, which is fine. It didn't go as planned, but it was a good thing that it didn't go as planned. And then lastly, one thing is just as a tip, when you're planning your wedding, just make sure to have everyone's full names, their guest full names, their address, phone number, email, get all the details. I think we try to do a little bit of a shortcut because we didn't send out invitations. So we were like, okay, we got like Mr. and Mrs. whatever is fine. But no, if for like the place cards, the seating chart, the thank you cards later, if you want to send them, you need all the details. And I feel like I was constantly revising my guest list. So just for the details, just make sure to get all the details ahead of time.
So those are some juicy tidbits of things that didn't go as planned. It's interesting to hear about it, I think, from our perspective as people that were kind of helping you with some of the planning but didn't know all of it. Still came off beautifully. Now that you have gone through the wedding and it's been 2 weeks now and you've had time to reflect, on top of what you've already shared, what are some tips that you would give to someone who is currently planning a wedding or knows that they'll be planning a wedding very soon in the future?
I think less so about the planning, but just like the day of. People tell you that the day goes by really fast, and I was always like, oh, but you can, you can make the most. It does go by really, really fast. I still remember when we were done with the ceremony and we were being carted away with the golf cart. I was looking back and people were already taking down the florals, and I was like, that was it? Like all of that was it? And there was this visceral reaction of me wanting to just jump out and like go back to the ceremony and just be like, wait, I need to like soak this all in. And then even at the reception before, everyone was moving into the indoor dance area because the music had to end at 10, I was just like, wait, that was it? And you want time to stand still so badly, and it won't. People say enjoy every moment. And I will agree, enjoy every moment, let go of the details, let go of, if something goes wrong, it was probably meant to go the way it was supposed to, and you just have to make the best of it. So that would be my tip to all the brides out there.
That's a good mindset to have. If something went wrong, it was probably meant to.
My baby's belly is supposed to be hanging out.
Yeah, it's my memorable moment. Cutest moment. Yeah, it's my memorable moment. So our last question for you after, we reflected, how are you feeling now?
Ooh, yeah, we are 2 weeks removed from the wedding. I feel relieved that it went as well as it did. You just never know what might go wrong, and it went, honestly, like as perfectly as it could. I feel sad that it's over, but I also feel happy that it happened. It's kind of like a relationship. It's like, I'm sad that we're over, but happy it happened.
Yeah. Bittersweet, maybe.
Bittersweet, yeah. And I just feel very grateful, and there was so much love on that day, and I just felt very supported. I also think an unexpected feeling coming out of this wedding was that, yes, the celebration is about you and your partner and the love between you two. But what I was surprised by is this feeling that the celebration was also about the people that have molded us to become the people that we are today, to become the right person for each other. I think that was a big takeaway from this whole wedding experience that I just didn't really expect. Because if you think about it, like even all of the, I guess people say like the thoughtfulness in the details of the wedding, when we were planning it, I was literally thinking like, oh, my friend her feet's gonna be hurting. How am I gonna be able to support her without actually being there and present with her? Because I'm gonna be running around. If they're in the bathroom, I need like how can I support them in doing that? And having these like personalized place cards, I would like read through each one. I was like, oh, they're gonna enjoy seeing their name here and having this like special moment. So it was kind of like a thank you to the people that really just mattered in our lives and made us who we are today. And even when I was putting together like the bridesmaids gifts, like that was a whole ordeal. But the thing that I wanted to focus on the most was the note that I put in there and like my favorite photo of like us, the two of us. And that was just, I was like crying writing that. Even the day of, like I was writing thank you cards to my parents, I was like, thank you for like raising me to be this woman that I am today. So that's something that I think was very unexpected. It was definitely not just a celebration of me and Philip. It was a celebration of love all around is what it felt like. And, that's why we didn't just want a Microsoft Teams wedding. We wanted to feel what we felt at this wedding with all of our friends and family celebrating with us.
I definitely felt that. It was a celebration of love and a sharing of your love with everyone.
Yeah. Best day, best weekend ever. But yeah, thank you ladies for being a part of it. It was a lot, but great memories coming from it.
I find myself like getting choked up just reliving some of the moments. Like the card, I had to like read it in private.
Yeah.
I think everyone had to read it in private. Like my makeup.
It was very thoughtful. I feel like what you put together, I could tell like there was intention behind every item you put in the bag, and then also the note that you wrote was very specific to the individual. So that's like a very thoughtful bride thing to do, which I think on top of everything else that you're planning, oftentimes gets pushed to the side. So
yeah, but it's not just about us, it's about everyone. So yeah, I know there are many 2023, 2024, and 2025 brides out there. So we are very happy that we were able to share this episode with all of you. And I'm very happy to be on this side of things so I can share all the craziness of the wedding planning and also provide all of the tips that hopefully you can take away. For any brides out there, recent brides, soon-to-be brides, if you have any tips for our community, help us all out. Share in our latest Instagram post what tips you would give to a friend who might be also going through a wedding.
I'll read all of those for sure.
And Mel will read all of those. And also just thank you everyone for, this is the last wedding, finally. The last wedding that I'm going to have of all the wedding and dates that we need to memorize. But yes, thank you for being along for the journey. And with that, we will catch you all on the next episode.
Bye.